Victor Lustig, one of history's most notorious and ingenious con artists, was a master of deception whose exploits still baffle and fascinate us today. He crafted his own 10 commandments, not for living a good life, but for perfecting the art of the scam. These weren't just rules, they were a philosophy, a blueprint for manipulating human nature. His rules? Be a patient listener, never look bored, never get drunk. Always let the other person reveal their political or religious views, then agree with them. Let them do most of the talking, but subtly guide the conversation. Lustig's masterpiece was legendary, convincing wealthy businessmen that he owned the Eiffel Tower and was selling it for scrap metal. And he didn't just do it once, he pulled off the same con twice, escaping both times. This isn't just a wild story, it's a profound lesson in the psychology of deception and persuasion. Lustig understood that the best cons prey on hope, ambition, and the desire to be part of something exclusive. He knew people are swayed by emotion, by greed, and by the promise of easy fortune. The more outrageous the opportunity, the more tempting it became. And of course, by the thrill of being in on a secret, of being chosen for a rare opportunity. His commandments weren't just about trickery, they were about performance, about playing a role so convincingly that no one would ever suspect the truth. To sell an impossible lie, you had to sell yourself first. Confidence, charm, and attention to detail were his greatest tools. He made his victims feel special, important, and uniquely chosen for a once-in-a-lifetime deal. That sense of exclusivity was irresistible. Imagine, you're a Parisian businessman, suddenly invited to a secret meeting by someone claiming to be a government official. The air is thick with intrigue and possibility. You're told the Eiffel Tower is a financial disaster and must be sold for scrap. The secrecy, the exclusivity, the promise of profit. It all feels so real, so urgent. The potential for enormous gain clouds your judgment. You want to believe, and that's exactly what Lustig counted on. Lustig's audacity forces us to question our own vulnerability. How easily could we be fooled by the right story, the right performance? Under the right circumstances, anyone, no matter how smart or cautious, can be deceived. For Lustig, his commandments were his script, his guide to every act of deception. And the world, with all its eager and unsuspecting players, was his stage. In that spotlight, Victor Lustig pulled off one of the greatest cons ever, a performance that still echoes through history, reminding us to always question what seems too good to be true. Victor Lustig wasn't born a criminal mastermind. His story began in the quiet countryside, far from the bustling cities where he'd later make his mark. He grew up in the Austro-Hungarian Empire, a place of shifting borders and old-world traditions. Even as a boy, he was gifted in languages and reading people, always curious about the world beyond his small town. Fluent in 5 languages, he could blend into any crowd, projecting wealth and sophistication even when broke. His charm was his greatest asset, allowing him to slip seamlessly between identities and social circles. His early scams began on transatlantic ocean liners, where he posed as a count or Broadway producer. These ships were floating cities filled with opportunity and unsuspecting victims. His signature trick, the Romanian box, was a fake money printing machine he'd sell for thousands. The device looked convincing, promising to turn blank paper into real currency. But the real con wasn't the box, it was the dream of easy riches. Lustig's genius was storytelling, weaving tales so believable that even the skeptical wanted to believe. He sold fantasies, not just gadgets. Each sale was a performance, and every mark left with hope in their pocket. On those ships, he learned to spot a mark, build rapport, and create urgency. He became a master at reading desperation and ambition, using them to his advantage. By 1925, Paris was the perfect stage. Post-war chaos, economic instability, and desperate optimism filled the air. The city was alive with opportunity and risk. People were hungry for opportunity, and Lustig knew how to exploit that. He understood the hopes and fears of a city rebuilding itself. He wasn't just a thief, he was an entrepreneur of illusion, selling dreams to those desperate enough to buy them. The Eiffel Tower scam would be his masterpiece, a con so bold it would become legend. Paris had no idea what was coming, The city's most iconic landmark was about to become the centerpiece of an audacious scheme. Lustig was ready for his biggest act yet, meticulously planning every detail and rehearsing his role to perfection. The world was about to meet its greatest trickster, a man who could sell the impossible and make you thank him for the privilege. In 1925, Lustig found the perfect mark, the Eiffel Tower. Back then, the tower was controversial, expensive to maintain, rusting, and not yet a beloved icon. Lustig read a news article about the city's struggle with upkeep costs. That was his spark. The best lies start with a kernel of truth. He didn't need to fool everyone, just a handful of ambitious scrap dealers. Posing as a government official, he forged credentials and official-looking stationery. He built a believable illusion brick by brick. His targets? The top 5 scrap metal dealers in Paris, men driven by ambition and competition. He invited them to a confidential meeting, pitting their greed against each other. The stage was set for his greatest performance. All he needed was for them to believe, and they did. Lustig booked a suite at the Hotel de Crillon, a venue dripping with legitimacy. He sent formal invitations to the 5 dealers, summoning them to a secret meeting. The secrecy made them feel privileged and kept them from talking. Lustig, dressed to impress, outlined the Eiffel Tower's problems and the government's plan to sell it for scrap. He painted the deal as a patriotic duty, not just a business transaction. He took them on a private limousine tour of the tower, pointing out rust and decay. The illusion was complete. They believed they were insiders on a historic deal. The dealers left convinced they'd inspected the goods themselves. Lustig had them exactly where he wanted. The con was in motion. After the tour, Lustig announced a 1-week deadline for sealed bids. The competition was fierce, but Lustig had already picked his mark, André Poisson, an ambitious newcomer eager to prove himself. Sensing Poisson's insecurity, Lustig hinted that a bribe might help smooth the process. Poisson, desperate to win, offered a hefty bribe, making the scam feel even more real. Lustig accepted, sealing Poisson's trust. Poisson was ecstatic when told he'd won the contract. He handed over a massive sum for the scrap rights plus the bribe. Lustig gave him a fake bill of sale and told him to await instructions. The hook was set. Poisson believed he'd pulled off the deal of a lifetime. In reality, he'd been played perfectly. Lustig had his money and his escape plan. The con was complete. With a suitcase full of cash, Lustig and his partner vanished to Vienna. He waited for headlines about the scam, but none came. Poisson, too humiliated to admit he'd been duped, stayed silent. No police, no investigation, just a clean getaway. For Lustig, it was the perfect crime. No one even knew it happened. Most would retire after such a win, but not Lustig. The thrill was as addictive as the money. If it worked once, why not again? The silence from Paris was an invitation. Lustig realized he could push his luck even further. The game wasn't over. He was already planning his next move. The Eiffel Tower wasn't done making him rich. Just a month later, Lustig returned to Paris. Bolder than ever, he ran the exact same story, same hotel, new batch of scrap dealers. The new group was just as eager, just as greedy. Lustig played his part flawlessly, but this time one dealer grew suspicious. Instead of offering a bribe, the dealer went to the police. The authorities were finally onto the scam. Lustig sensed danger and fled before they could catch him. He escaped Paris, leaving the police baffled and empty-handed. He didn't get paid this time, but he kept his freedom. The Eiffel Tower scam was over, but Lustig's legend was just beginning. He headed to the United States, ready for new cons. Paris would never forget the man who sold its greatest landmark. What made Lustig so successful? What was it about this man that allowed him to pull off some of the most audacious cons in history, fooling even the sharpest minds of his era? Supreme confidence and meticulous attention to detail were at the heart of his every move. He planned every step, leaving nothing to chance, and always made sure his story was airtight. He radiated authenticity. People simply believed him. His charm was magnetic, and he could win over a room with just a few words and a well-timed smile. Every element of his cons, from forged stationery to luxury hotels, reinforced the illusion. He understood the power of appearances and used them to make his lies feel like truth. He was a master of human psychology, manipulating greed, ego, and fear. He could read people instantly, knowing exactly what they wanted to hear. He made victims feel special, tempted them with wealth, and ensured their silence through shame. His marks often believed they were in on a secret, never realizing they were the true targets. Lustig believed his marks were complicit, driven by their own larceny. He exploited their desires, making them partners in their own downfall. He thrived on the thrill of the con, not just the money. The excitement of outwitting others was his true reward, and he chased it relentlessly. He even conned Al Capone, then returned the money just to prove he could. It was never just about profit, it was about proving his genius to himself and the world. For Lustig, it was about outsmarting anyone, anywhere. No challenge was too great and no mark too powerful. He was an artist of deception, a performer who loved the spotlight. Each con was a show, and he was always the star. His blend of charm, intelligence, and audacity made him legendary. He was both a strategist and a showman, always 2 steps ahead. Lustig's story is a masterclass in the art of the con. His methods, though criminal, reveal the timeless power of persuasion and human psychology, and his lessons still echo today, reminding us that the greatest tricksters are those who understand people best. Lustig's story isn't just history, it's a warning. We're not as rational as we think. A good story, told with confidence, still beats cold facts. The Romanian box is now a crypto scam. The fake official is now a phishing email. The methods change, but the psychology stays the same. Urgency, exclusivity, emotion. We still want to believe in easy money and secret opportunities. Lustig's ghost lives on in every modern scam. His tale reminds us to question what sounds too good to be true. It's a call to be more critical, more aware. The world is full of unbelievable cons. What's the wildest true story you've heard? Let us know in the comments below.